Hearing none. Hey, Anthony, it sounds like you got some music going on in the background. There we go. Okay. All right, so for today, Kaysen, it looks like you're up first. Is Kaysen with us today? Does not look like it. Okay. All right, Sam said he was going to be today. He needed to step out today. All right, Scott Mansfield.
Yes.
All right, you get first shot at the list today.
Let's just do number 1.
Perfect. Okay, go for it.
Which of the following terms refers to the process by which humans learn the rules, customs, skills, and values to participate in society? And I said that was B.
Enculturation. Okay. So let's talk about what culture is. Okay, so what does this have to do? Okay, sorry, I'm a little discombobulated today. There. So when we talk about culture, okay, so we've got this idea that culture, based on this question, is defined by the rules, customs, skills, and values necessary to participate in a society. What does this have to do with ethics? Why does this show up in a book about ethics in the first place? And that's open to anybody.
To prove a point that we're not born with ethics, ethics have to be learned.
Okay, so the ethics, which is this statement as to the expectations that we hold for ourselves, right? The kind of behavior we expect based on our moral standard, right? What we consider to be the right and wrong. Ethics informs how we're supposed to act based on that knowledge. We only acquire those things by understanding and learning the rules, customs, skills, and values related to a society. Okay? So we can't have ethics if we don't understand the society in which those ethics are placed, right? Okay? Now, here's the tricky thing. How do we establish or determine what culture is? Where do these rules, customs, skills, and values come from?
It's something that's passed on from generation to generation.
Okay, it's passed on from generation to generation, and it comes from our lived experience, right? Where do rules come from? Every rule comes from someplace. The rule, do not put your hand on a hot stove, comes from what?
Bad experience.
A bad experience. At some point, someone put their hand on a hot stove and then realized that does not work well. And so they started to teach others to help hopefully avoid replicating the same experience. But most of culture comes from experience, right? The rules, the traditions, the skills that we have that make us work in all of the different groups we belong to tend to form over time and over our common experience. Okay? Now, what makes culture so tricky is that in a lot of situations, the rules, customs, skills, and values are not put in a book. They're not written down somewhere that I can hand to somebody. Although it might be nice. Why might it be nice to have our culture written down? How could that be helpful? It sure would be a lot quicker for us to be able to learn and abide by these things. And if we don't know them, what tends to happen? If you're the new kid in school, what tends to happen? You sit at the wrong table, you talk to the wrong person, and you violate these cultural rules of socialization, of who can sit with who and who can talk to who and who can do what, right? And that can cause incredible distress and problems. We can violate those unwritten rules of conduct, and it creates an incredible problem. Okay. All right. Billy.
Can I do number 9?
Number 9. Okay.
So when corruption takes place, at which basic level is it a matter of conscience? I'm pretty sure it's individual, because it's not like if a company or organization did something, it would be like as a whole, versus like if it's just one person, it's kind of them choosing to do it on their own, not guided by anything.
Okay. Does everybody agree with that? Okay, so the entire idea of conscience is what? What term have we used in this class before that kind of has the same meaning as conscience? Starts with an M.
Morals?
It's a moral or a moral standard, yeah. So the idea of when corruption takes place, at which basic level is it a matter of morals? And that, I think, it better explains exactly what Billy just said, which is corruption as a matter of conscience is a moral issue, and it's at the individual level. Okay? All right. Winter, you're up.
Okay, 1 second. I'm just pulling up the list. Okay, I'm gonna do number 4.
Number
So it says, what of the
4.
following best describes the difference between enculturation and acculturation? I chose B. So enculturation refers to the process by which humans learn rules and customs to participate in society. Acculturation is more specific to like cultural transmission and like how like
Okay, I'm going to be honest with you, Winter. I didn't catch which letter you just said. Okay,
Hello?
I think Winter. Yep, we're here. Can you hear me?
my back. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I can. I don't know what happened. It just disconnected.
Yep.
Anyway, number 4, I chose B. There.
B.
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
All right. So why is it a big deal to understand the difference between enculturation and acculturation? I'm not even sure if I pronounced that correctly. What do you think, Winter? Why is it important to understand the difference between the two? Yeah, I think I might have lost you again. Oh, there you go.
Oh no, wait. Okay. So, enculturation is more like how we learn about our own culture, and then the acculturation is more of like how like we kind of adapt to other cultures or like learn about their cultures?
Well, and it's not just that we adapt, it's when those cultures interact, right? So we have the set of rules from culture A, and we have the set of cultural rules from group B. And as long as I live only with group A, which culture am I going to obey? Group A. If I live with group B, I'm going to live according to B's rules. The challenge or acculturation occurs when group A and group B start to interact with each other. And what are they really kind of creating? A cultural exchange, which results in, we still have pure A, we still have pure B, but now we have C, which is a mix of A and B. Why would that happen? Why would we have this group C that emerges? Now remember, how do we develop culture? Through experience, right? And so group A's culture has been based on the common lived experience of group A in their setting, right? Same thing with group B. But now that we have group A and group B intermixing, we're suddenly going to have new experiences that probably haven't occurred in group A or group B. Or if they have, we're going to be presenting new solutions to those ideas. Okay, and so now all of a sudden we're creating a new set of rules that reflects, okay, what happens when these two different rules mix? Right? Family traditions. Family A, family B, suddenly a marriage occurs and strains of A are still present, strains of B are still present, but most couples or families will start to introduce their own because they're living in a new experience. And so that idea of acculturation is slightly different than enculturation, which is, enculturation is how do I become a part of A or a part of B. Acculturation is how do I mix A and B together to create C. All right, excellent. Okay, Jackson, it looks like you're up. I'm not sure Jackson's with us today. Okay. Okay, what about, oh, Tanner said he wasn't gonna make it. Okay. Let's see, Kyle, you're up.
Okay. Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm looking up. Okay. Can I do number 2?
Let's see, yes, you can.
Businesses that wish to achieve the dual goal of human flourishing and responsible profits should model which ethical behavior? I said C, humanistic business model.
Okay. What makes it okay? So why this answer? What is that kind of referring to?
Well, the happiness of the employees is what it's referring to, right?
Okay, so yeah, so the idea of it's a business model that focuses or acknowledges and recognizes that humanity is a part of the business model. Okay, so the idea is that encouraging and the dual goal of human flourishing can be concurrent with solid, honest business values. I can still turn a profit while still caring for the flourishing of employees, and not just employees. That I can improve the overall standard of living for everybody. So for example, anybody here ever heard of a sock company called Bombas? Okay, they make socks, but they realized that when talking to homeless shelters, socks were one of the most commonly requested items of clothing. So they made a business model that said, for every pair of socks that we sell, we will donate a pair of socks to a local homeless shelter. Now, these are not cheap socks, but they are able to make enough of a profit to keep their company going. But part of their business model is we only succeed as we do what?
Will you repeat what you just asked? Excuse me.
What's that?
Will you repeat your question? Excuse me.
Yeah. Okay, so Bombas donates a pair of socks for every pair of socks they sell. Okay? So they have decided that their business model only works if, do they just focus on selling socks? What are they doing?
They're giving back.
They recognize that part of their model is our business only makes sense if we're making the lives of other people better. So we are able to design a business model that allows us to take care of our workers, take care of our business interests. But part of that business interest is helping other people. And that's what that concept of the humanistic business model is. Okay?
Talking about balance.
This idea of balance, getting back to what Henry Ford was trying to do in the 1920s, that business doesn't only have to be focused on a model of profit, that it can be modeled after other interests as well and still be successful. Okay. Let's see. Oh, sorry, Kyle, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I just said thank you.
Okay. All right. Caden, are you with us today?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Barely, but yes.
Here, I'll see if I can. Is that better?
Oh. Yep, we got you.
All right, can I do number 20?
Number 20. Okay, go for it.
All right, so it says, which of the following definitions best describes moral agency? And I said C, the freedom and ability to make choices based on one's perception of right and wrong.
Okay, how does this connect into our concept of ethics?
Well, I think that just since we can choose from what we believe that's right and wrong, we know, like, well, we don't really have to make a choice that we don't feel comfortable with. I don't know.
No, you're with this. The idea of moral agency is that I have to be able to decide how to act, and I have to have the freedom to do so. Now, can I separate consequence from moral agency? Meaning, I want to do what's right, but I don't want to have to pay the price for doing so. No. Moral agency simply suggests, like you said, the freedom and ability to make choices based on one's perception of right and wrong, but I don't get to choose the consequence that is attached to that. Okay? Why is that such a big deal in ethics?
I think just because sometimes maybe companies want to drive you to maybe make unethical decisions, and you have to make that decision for yourself, whether you want to do it or not.
Okay? Again, this gets back to one of the things we've said since the beginning. A company does not make decisions. Individuals make decisions. So I cannot abdicate or give away my moral agency and then be held blameless for the consequences of doing that. Okay? Also, it suggests that in order for me to be able to make decisions, I have to have the ability to choose. If somebody doesn't give me the adequate information for me to make an informed decision, or if I'm sick or under the influence of drugs or alcohol, am I truly a moral agent?
I would say no.
Okay, because I do not have the ability to make an informed and intentional decision, right? For example, this is why we say that kids under the age of 18 cannot vote, because we do not believe that they have developed the moral character to be able to exercise moral agency. Kids can't sign contracts because we don't believe that they have the capacity to understand the consequences of decisions that they make. Okay? And that's all the freedom and ability. So if anything undermines our freedom to make choices or our ability, it robs us of moral agency. Okay. All right. Let's see. Zach, it looks like you're up.
Saying number 3.
Number 3. Okay, give me a second. Okay, go for it.
Says, yeah, which intellectual, emotional, and social human trait affects decision making, including ethical decisions? D, that would be attitude.
Okay. Okay. I would probably agree with bias. I think that attitude can affect it, but I think that bias is probably the more accurate statement because it affects how we understand everything. It affects it affects what we know, it affects how we feel about things, it affects how we interact with others.
Doesn't attitude do the same thing though? Because doesn't it, if you're making a decision, doesn't it really boil down to your attitude towards what's going on? I mean, I understand what you said about bias. I totally agree. I'm just asking, would attitude also be a correct answer?
I will be honest that I think that attitude and bias are somewhat synonymous. They kind of mean the same thing. What I would just say though, it's kind of the bias is what leads us to our attitudes. So you have bias before you have attitude.
Okay.
But I think they're very, very close in meaning to each other. Okay? But yeah, I would say that I would go with C more than D, but it's very close. Okay?
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. All right, Megan.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I chose number 13. The fact that KFC is branded in Quebec as PFK is an example of B, globalization.
Okay. You are correct, but explain to me why.
Because Kentucky Fried Chicken in the United States makes sense because we all know like Kentucky, and understand that meaning, but in China or Canada, they don't make that correlation and that makes sense. They don't have we think of Kentucky Fried Chicken and that's like the South, but it's not the same in other places.
Okay, but if I look at the title in the sentence, you are correct but I think the argument isn't quite there yet. If I look at the fact that KFC is branded in Quebec as PFK, Poulet Frit Kentucky, I'm still using the word Kentucky, even though in Quebec they might not understand that. Why is it that it's PFK in Quebec? This requires you to know something about Canada.
Is it
Wouldn't it be
French?
because of the language they have? Because I think they speak fluent French in Quebec.
Yeah, okay, that's where I was gonna go. I was gonna give Megan a chance to say that. Yes, in Quebec, they speak French. So what is PFK? It is Kentucky Fried Chicken, but it's translated into French. So if I was to be in Paris, what would I expect to see? Same thing, right? PFK. Globalization means I can still sell, because I could probably in Quebec, like you said, Megan, and this makes a great point. In Quebec, they probably don't understand the significance of fried chicken from Kentucky. I gotta be honest, I don't know what it is about Kentucky that makes it special from Tennessee fried chicken or Missouri fried chicken. I don't know what it is about Kentucky other than Colonel Sanders with his wee beady eyes. Quick, so I married an actor reference there that nobody seems to be picking up on. Okay, there's the guy that created this said that it was special that this fried chicken came from Kentucky. And we want to have that experience to the point that when we go to Quebec, we're going to call it fried chicken from Kentucky. Even though that we don't know what that means. But that the globalization is that we're going to change our identity to recognize the difference of where we are. Okay? So for example, I lived in Brazil, northern Brazil, not up in the Amazon, a little bit south from there. And they have, in Brazil, for example, pizza is the most disappointing and depressing thing you will ever see in your life. It's dough, and then they will go, and then on the plain dough, they will put out slices of deli ham, corn, and green olives with the pit still in it. They'll cover that with mozzarella cheese, they'll bake that, and then they will give it to you with cups of ketchup and mayo that you're supposed to dip the pizza in. The first time someone said, hey, we're going to have pizza, I'm going, sweet. I get there and I'm saying, where's the pizza? And they said, this is it. And I'm going, no, this isn't. I wanted to weep. It was the most disappointing thing I'd ever eaten in my life. I didn't realize that compared to some of the other things I ate, that was a joy and a wonder. But later on, we got really excited because a new mall was being built in this capital city. And they had a Pizza Hut. And the first time I got a personal pan pizza, and I picked it up, and the grease was dripping off of it into the bottom of the pan, I almost wept for joy. And I said, now this is pizza. And they looked at me, and they said, this is disgusting. Who puts tomatoes on this? And I'm saying, that's what pizza is. Okay, sorry. I had to go off on that just because of my experience with global economies. The first time I went to a Walmart, and I had to use boxed milk. Oh, it was sad. Okay, sorry. Haley, you're up.
I'm going to do question number 10.
Okay.
Which of the
Go for it.
following Which of the following definitions best describes mercantilism? And I pick C, the theory that prosperity depends on extracting wealth or accumulating it from others.
Okay, yes. Why is that such a big deal?
Because capitalism sees wealth creation as the key to economic growth and prosperity.
Okay, but what's the difference then between capitalism and mercantilism?
One is you're taking it from others, the other is you're building it on your own.
Yes, this is a critical concept. Mercantilism operates under a concept called zero-sum game. The world is a pie. Your slice of that pie can only grow if what? Somebody else's pie slice gets smaller. So mercantilism is this idea that the view that wealth or that prosperity only works, I only become prosperous if I can extract wealth and take it from other people, which is an incredibly aggressive and hostile economic mindset. Okay, but it was what ruled the world for a very long time, right? The idea that might makes right. If I have the Army or Navy to enforce my will, I can go anywhere I want and take whatever I need to provide prosperity for myself. The effects on anybody else be damned. If they're not strong enough to fight back, then they never deserved it in the first place. Now, Haley, you bring up an excellent point. This is very different from capitalism, which is the acquisition of wealth is based upon my own effort and my own skill, but it does not require what? For me to succeed does not require what? The big difference between this and capital. What's that?
Someone to lose.
Yes. Capitalism suggests we can both win. Whereas mercantilism says, I only win if you lose. Does that mean that capitalism always results in wins for everyone? Not necessarily, but it is a much more generous model than mercantilism was. Okay. Excellent. All right, Logan, you're up. Logan, are you with us? Okay. Then we're going to come back, and Anthony, you're up.
Okay, I did number 11.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so business ethics exist on which of the following three levels? Select the best answer, and I chose B, individual, organizational, and societal, only really because it says it right here in the text. It says business ethics exists on three levels: the individual, the organizational, and the societal. So just
okay, that's a great reason to argue that that's the correct answer. Okay, but let's talk about, so business ethics exists on the following three levels. What's the difference between the three? You are 100% correct.
the individual is like me and the choices that I decide to do, and like what I believe is right for myself. Whereas organization is, I guess it would kind of be more towards the organization and what is right for the organization and what will, you could say, profit or benefit the organization. And then societal would be
Just a quick second.
Okay.
We're not making the argument that the organization, we're not doing things for the benefit of the organization. Okay? So I'm going to slightly disagree. You are correct, but remember, businesses are not individuals despite the Citizens United ruling. Businesses are made up of what?
People.
People. So when we say organizational ethics, we're talking about the ethics or the culture that exists within that business. Okay? So the idea is that we're saying as a group involved in a common purpose, identified by the organization that we belong to, these are the rules that we come up with amongst ourselves. Okay?
Okay, yeah, that does make sense.
Last one.
And then societal would be, well, like how I see it is more of coming from like a governmental point of view, as where it would be kind of the people that are running the government try to, I guess you could say, benefit society and make laws and regulations that would help.
So the only difference between organizational ethics and societal ethics is what we call scale. What do I mean by that?
So scale, whereas like the organizational is for the company and everyone that works for the company or that profits from it, and society would be everyone that lives in a society. So like if we're doing it for the United States government, it would be everyone that lives in the United States or their territories and that would benefit from, or whereas we could say it's just the Boise Capitol building where they do it for just all of Idaho.
Exactly. And so the idea of individual, organizational, and societal, this is what controls my beliefs or my actions. Whereas organizational is I'm going to include or consider all of the people that are joined together in one common purpose. Now, organizational is not just, even though we're saying business ethics exists at the organizational level, but that can mean a lot of different things. For example, a church group can be considered an organization, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so then individual congregations, or whatever term you want to use for a group of people that share a common faith tradition, they can come up with, here are the rules or what we consider to be appropriate here. Now that might be informed by a larger group, but it might just be, here are what the local, this is what we believe here. But it still applies. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Andrew, I think you're out.
I will do number 7.
Number 7. Okay.
So besides culture, what is another major influence in the development of business ethics? And that would be the passage of time. And that is because
Please continue.
Okay, so that is because ethical standards do not remain fixed. They transform in response to evolving situations, which over time people change, technology advances, and then cultural morals shift.
Okay, and this gets back to that concept that because we understand that culture is based on experience, the passage of time will introduce new events that require us to reconsider how we interact. And because cultures come in contact with each other and create new versions, those can also result in changes in how we perceive right and wrong and what is good behavior. Okay. Josh.
Number 38.
Number 38.
Are there universal ethical values or all ethics relative? They're both, because there are some universal ethic values like respect and responsibility that applies to everyone, whether you want to show someone or not, that's your choice. But the relative ethics are like fairness and integrity, and I think that's more relative to each individual than to the whole as a society.
Okay, so the argument is that there are some universal ethics that if I go into any culture or any moral tradition, there are certain things that seem to pop up on a regular basis. Respect for life would be a common one. That murder and killing is wrong unless there are justifications. Okay, so there are, why is this a big debate? Why would it matter about the difference between universal ethics and relative ethics?
I don't know how to answer that.
Okay, anybody want to help out? Why would it matter if there are or not universal ethical values?
I think because of globalization, basically, it's making it so now we're not just doing business with our local communities, and it's spanning internationally now. So we're going to have to start figuring out how our business ethics, especially, are going to be interrelated with others.
Okay, and especially if we believe that ethics to a degree are influenced by culture, we cannot say that therefore business ethics must be universal and cannot reflect the culture of the group. And like Jack just said, we're not just dealing with our group anymore. If we were just dealing with our tribe, whatever tribe that is, right, then we could say that ethics was universal. But as we started to encounter other groups who had equally legitimate cultural claims to ethics that are different than ours, we cannot just simply say, well, we're right, you're wrong, therefore you have to accommodate ours. We have to become flexible and recognize that even though there are universal concepts that we might agree with, there are quite a few that are somewhat relative. Excellent. Okay, Cattell.
I'm gonna try 16 since all mine.
Okay, number 16.
In 2017, Lee Long, heir to Samsung Electronics, was part of the widespread corruption scandal that brought us down President of South Korea. What were some of the crimes Lee Long was convicted of? And that was bribery and embezzlement.
Okay.
It was a pretty huge widespread corruption scandal.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, Porter. You with us today? Please, not everybody at once. Okay, Jack, you're up then.
Okay, I think I'll answer 34.
Okay.
It says analyze the ethical pros and cons related to overseas manufacturing for a company such as Nike. And this was basically about how Nike was using overseas manufacturing because it was a lot cheaper. And so you could say that because their products were being made in sweatshops, they were able to kind of keep prices low for a lot of their shareholders. But the ethical dilemma obviously is like, are lower prices worth having things made in sweatshops where there are no worker rights and things like that?
Okay. One thing I would disagree with you is Nike is not known for low price products.
Well, I mean, that's true, but I think that would be Nike's argument, is that they're saying like, well, yeah, but if we made these things in America, then these sneakers would be $300 instead of $150.
True. But I think the argument that's being made is they were making them over there because the cost to produce is so low that whatever price they sell them for here in the United States, it's simply going to increase the degree of profit that is made per pair of shoes. And I think that the underlying question is, okay, so, and you brought this up, if Nike was to build those shoes here in the United States, why would it be $300 for the same product?
Well, because we have to pay our workers a lot more than they pay workers overseas.
Okay, number one, because we have fair labor laws. Okay? Anything else?
Mm,
They also have different cultural norms.
About who and what should be making profit off of an activity, right? Okay, and so the idea of Nike saying, look, we gave this contract to build these shoes to a company in Thailand or China or wherever, okay? And we made the agreement that they will make products that meet our quality standards. So we're not selling a cheap, fall apart pair of shoes, right? We can guarantee that we have a high product quality, and they are able to do that, but we're not going to ask questions about how they did it. Right? That we as Nike simply gave the contract to somebody else, and if they violated things like fair labor laws, honest wages, sweatshops and child labor, if they violated, it's the fault of whom? Is it Nike's fault?
No, it's their own government.
It's the government of the country where it happened, or it's the fault of the company that subcontracted the job, right? That was the idea or the argument that Nike put out. Okay, now we read about this in a previous chapter. California passed a law called the Transparency in Supply Chain Act. Does anybody know what that was all about? Based on what we're talking about right now, does anybody want to guess?
Yeah, that was basically where they wanted to make all the consumers aware of the products they're buying, like where they're coming from stage one, all the way up to where they see it in the stores.
Exactly. So for example, if you go to Walmart and you go to the fish area and you buy shrimp from Walmart, guess what you will see on the packaging?
Where it came from?
Where it was caught and how it was raised. Is this wild caught fish or is this farm raised fish? Why would that matter? Okay, it's about how is this fish raised? For example, if it's farm raised, they tend to have higher levels of hormones and other chemicals because when you have a large number of fish in a very confined space, you have to give them antibiotics because diseases can spread very easily. People don't want to eat fish that are full of antibiotics. They want wild raised, where nobody's taking care of the fish, therefore they're more likely to be healthy because they don't have as many chemicals in them. Okay, I also have to tell you what country they came from. This is an example of this idea of being more transparent about the ethical pros and cons of where our products come from. Okay. Let's see. All right. Let's see. We're a little bit ahead of time, ahead of schedule for class today. So.
Hey, Professor, can I do my participation for the day? I joined late.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to ask a terrible question. Oh, there we go. Okay, I was trying to figure out who was talking. Okay, Logan, you're up. Go for it.
Yeah, it's Logan. All right. Can I do number? Has 38 been done?
38 has been done.
All right. What about 35?
35 is still available.
All right. So that one is. All right. So have they differed from modern times compared to the past? All right. In modern times, it's more so online. Everything is trying to avoid like cyber crimes and privacy issues. And then before, you were more into like environmentalism and even like the 60s, you were looking into like world peace, stuff like that. And then businesses shifted around those ideas.
Okay, so those are, I'm not sure how that connects to consumer ethics, but I'm going to ask you to do this then. Define for me what consumer ethics are. What are consumer ethics? We've been talking about business ethics, so what are consumer ethics?
So like something to benefit them, or I guess like their reaction to a self.
Okay, so if we talk about ethics is how we decide to act on our sense of right and wrong. Okay, so how would how would this idea of right and wrong affect the way people buy things?
Um, I guess like in like modern times, like buying masks or buying, if for example, like toilet paper, if they bought more toilet paper so other people couldn't buy it. I mean, that's the kind of
Okay,
a
so
wrong
that might
decision.
be consumer ethics. Okay, has anybody heard of the controversy, and I'm going to ask you this, Logan, about straws?
Is that related to like recycling or?
Okay, so it's this idea of recycling because a plastic straw. Oh, what's that?
I said, save the turtles.
Save the turtles, right? This idea that because straws don't break down, those straws will last for a long time and get into the environment and affect animals. For example, we used to have the plastic rings that would, if you were to hold things of pop together, if you didn't kind of break those up, animals could get caught inside those rings. And even more fundamental, and I think this gets at the idea of consumer ethics, was the idea that certain countries, when they caught tuna, would use nets that would also catch dolphins. And so when they would bring these nets onto the fishing boat, they would throw in all of the tuna, and there would be all these dead dolphins, and they would just dump the dolphins back into the ocean. And so several companies said, we specifically buy tuna from companies that can assure us that their harvesting methods do not harm dolphins. Okay, so consumer ethics is the standards that consumers use to decide what they should or shouldn't buy. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go, let's see. Does anybody else have a question they would like to answer? Somebody who hasn't gotten any extra credit yet. Haley, do you want to go?
I can go again.
Okay, go for it.
Number 27, as a function of culture, ethics is static in each new era. And I said that was false.
Okay.
That had a lot to do with when I was reading about the mercantilism.
Okay.
and you already brought it up that they thought that in order to get, you had to take. And so that's what I got from reading that, was that it was more in a static era, where now where we are, it's not so much the case because people are building and building without taking from other people.
Well, I would agree and disagree. I think that there are still people that are able to take at the cost of other people.
There's
But-
always going to be that.
That's true. But I think that as an overall economic model, we have kind of abandoned the idea that the only way we win is to take away from others and to protect our own, that we recognize that we can build without, in a way that is cooperative and collaborative rather than competitive. Okay, excellent. Anybody else want a chance to go? You already got extra credit. No? Okay, go for it.
So number 25, it says even in business. I don't know if we did that one yet, actually.
Not yet.
Okay. So even in business, ethics is not about human morality, but rather about human consumption. I said it was false because in ethics, it's more about like how we decide based on morals. It's not really about like the consumption of products.
Okay. I would agree with that. I would actually argue that human morality is about human consumption. The consumption is an ethical matter, right? Remember we talked about the tragedy of the common in class last week? Anybody remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Can somebody tell me what the tragedy of the common is? Think of it as water.
It's where, like, when there's an abundance of a free resource, people take and use as much as they can without, like, thinking about the consequences.
Exactly. And so I think that human consumption is a question of human morality in terms of not just can we consume, but should we? Or how do we? And so I think that that ethics is about human morality, and the consumption is a moral issue. Okay. Anybody else? Take one more question. This is a free and easy extra credit, guys. Going once. Going twice. Oh, people. Okay. So that's what we have for today. We will cover the rest of this in class on Thursday. Please remember that we are going to be doing our video chat and discussion for our ethical dilemma for Friday or for Thursday. And I should have everything graded and up to date at that point. Okay, so today is the 16th. Okay, our midterm exam is going to be coming up. Wrap your head around this, folks. Our midterm exam is in about 2 weeks. This is one of the freakiest, fastest semesters I can remember on record. It is nuts how fast time is going. Okay, so we will be talking in more depth about the midterm. Just so you are aware, the midterm is not comprehensive. Meaning, the midterm exam is not going to look like what you see up on the screen. It is not going to be a series of questions where you have to be able to remember anything that we've read over the course of the last 8 weeks. Okay? It is going to be different than that. So please don't sit there and think you have to be cramming for the midterm exam. I just want that out there because you're probably starting to maybe hear some whispers of midterms in your other classes. This class is not going to require a lot of prep and study. Just FYI. Okay? All right, that's everything I have, folks, unless anybody has anything else.
Are we going to do the random number generator thing?
We are. But you have been disqualified for today, Haley. I'm just going to tell you now.
Fine, goodbye.
Ouch! Ow! Okay, so number 10. Number 5. And number 2. Okay. All right, so let's see who that was. That was okay, so Sam, Andrew, and Kyle. Okay. Well, Sam wasn't here and Andrew's already gotten extra credit, so I will re-roll those numbers and post those in the class chat. So, all right, everybody, take care. Have a great day. Enjoy the snow. It sounds like we're going to have snow between now and the rest of the month, which is kind of nuts. So take care, everybody. Be safe.